what it is this time when you try to answer it. Because as a creationist, you have to answer that question. And if you can't answer that question, you're done. That it really does come down to that. And creationists can't admit that because they can't answer that, because they don't like. Creationists fear the burden of proof more than vampires fear garlic. I mean, they can't deal with it. They can't explain anything. They want to take the idea that whatever you can't explain works as evidence for them. And it does not work that way. If you want to propose that, well, you can't explain that, therefore what? Give me the evidence of your magic imaginary friend. If you haven't got it, you ain't got it. And this ends up being unexplained. So Kent asked me, I asked him a handful of questions he can't answer, not honestly. And I've already seen that, he can't figure out, he doesn't learn anything. I mean, how many times have we gone over about my name, for example? He still can't get my name right?
Yep.
But he asked me, what did he ask me? Explain to me. I would like you to explain to me, as if it's a challenge. I would like you to explain to me where the first chemicals came from. How did we get silver and gold, for example? Explain that. Really?
Oh my God, that's so good.
I mean, fucking Fred Hoyle. How come?
It's funny
how
did
you
that
guys
Kent
not?
It's funny you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
Kent doesn't learn anything, because one of the questions I got asked today, I was a guest speaker on the atheist community of Austin's Discord server. They invited me to come on to have a Q&A. And one of the questions I got is, who is your most frustrating
Oh,
guest? And other than George Lujak, who's just beyond it.
Oh, he was amazing.
Yeah, but I put Hoban. And the reason I put Hoban as
Jason is the new winner of that category.
Jason might be in contention. But the reason I said Hoban was the exact reason you just gave, is because Hoban willfully will never, ever take correction. No matter how many times you tell him something, he'll continually make the same stupid arguments that he's already been demonstrated to be wrong countless times over God knows how many decades. This is why I think he's one of the most dishonest people I've ever ran across, because he has never won. And matter of fact, the other day, he was on with Jackson Wheat, a very great phylogenists, if you know who he is. He's a student of phylogeny, loves the topic. And I had actually asked Kent in the side chat. Yeah, you know Jackson Wheat.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I'd asked Kent, I said, hey, has Kent ever corrected the fact that he had a claim in the 9th edition Creationist Handbook saying that one mammoth was carbon dated 2 different ways and found, 2 different times. And he was explaining it was 2 different mammoths found 8 years apart in different strata, one in 1940 and one in 1948. And his response was this: well, I don't use that claim, or you would have to use it in your accent, but I don't use that claim any longer because it's there's some, controversy with it. But, it doesn't negate everything else that I've said. But he wouldn't come out and say that he was wrong. He wouldn't come out and say, yes, the claim is bogus. That is how dishonest the man is.
Man, it's like Ray Comfort.
So
and
I can't
fucking
wait.
Well, it's a
bananas.
bogus claim.
I'm sorry,
Nice.
Chris. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just about to say, it's like Ray Comfort and the fucking bananas. Like he
Ray
got
Comfort is
proven wrong a million times. It's like, and then he said he was wrong, and now he's back to saying that he was right.
Yeah. Now, Ray Comfort is annoying and he's grossly dishonest. But for me, the king of all idiots is Kent Hovind. Although that guy Lujak, he was otherworldly.
He's
He
next
was
level,
out
isn't
of
he?
his fucking mind.
Yeah.
Okay,
Aron got
How do you think he's doing?
that's the night that Aron was just like, I can't do
does.
this anymore.
Did Aron?
Fuck this guy.
Aron, did you go back and watch him and King Crocoduck too? That was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
No, but since you mentioned King Crocoduck, I want and you guys mentioned oh God, what was the other name? What was the other name you just mentioned? Who?
Jackson Wheat.
You were just talking about
Jackson Wheat.
Jackson Wheat, yeah. Yeah, because I mentioned in my video, I said shout out to Bill Ludlow and to King Crocoduck, and I didn't mention Logic and all the other people that had roasted and toasted Kent Hovind, because he is the shooting fish in a barrel guy. And I wish that I had just thrown out a handful more names of people I know that had rolled over this dude.
You
Anyway, I like my work to be easy. I like to have series to work with, so that I know as soon as I'm finished with one video exactly what video I need to do next. And if Hovind will upload the rest of his videos, I would love to do nothing but kick him in the crotch for the rest of the month. That'd be great, and I can get all my my videos out for the month and be easy and move on to December.
I'm totally okay with that. I think it's great. I mean, I like I said, I'm just surprised that he agreed to do that. But since you said,
what did he get out of it? He asked
nothing.
me questions. He asked me questions every high school graduate should have known the answer to already. How do you not?
Well, he taught high school, right? He taught high school, right, Aron?
In
He
here.
was a high school biology.
So he taught at at like 2 Christian schools and then one that he created.
Well, Chris,
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just say I've actually asked him this direct question. It is buried. It's hard to find, but it's on a video when he did a debate with Negation of P on my channel, and I asked this very clear question. I'm very surprised people have not found this clip and utilized it, because I had asked him, have you ever taught anything that is accredited? Have you ever taught a course where somebody can say, I have accreditation for this, as in public classroom or college or high school? His answer was a definitive no. He actually, that was one of the very few times he actually said, yeah. So what?
I've made videos for the last 5 years that for education of a middle school class, right? So, I mean, should I call myself a middle school and high school teacher? Because I could more fairly and accurately say that than Hovind can. But it would still be dishonest if I said it, and it would be more honest than when he says it.
Yep.
Okay, I got a question for y'all.
Talking to Hovind's followers, that's bizarre.
Oh,
you ever get into it with them?
Yes. Listen, from your debate with Kent Hovind, all right, it's the ongoing video that we have. I still get like, I would venture to say 30 to 45 comments a day on the video from back in February, and it's still it's the biggest point of contention on this channel. I think it's not only is it the most watched video, but it's the most controversial. And it's funny to go through and read somebody say, like, it shocks you to read someone go, Aron completely lost this one. Kent Hovind beat him with science and the Bible and how wonderful it is that they can go together. And it's just like, how? When? I don't think I don't think you're using those words right. You're not using those words right.
The easiest question to ask a Hovind follower, and I do this all the time, is what point did Hovind make? Tell me what Hovind's argument was. Do you know? Nobody can do that.
Hovind's argument in this last video was that, and this was an important thing, I probably honestly could have stressed a little bit more in the video, where Hovind says, you have to explain where life started. Well, yeah, science has an explanation for the origin of the universe, and it's called, the Big Bang Theory. And science has an explanation for the origin of chemicals, and it's called nucleosynthesis. And science has an explanation for the formation of the planets and stellar system, and that's stellar or planetary formation theory. And science has explanations for the origin of life, and this is the accumulated or associated hypotheses of abiogenesis. And the last two, macroevolution and microevolution, they're both the same fucking thing. They're both evolution. That science has an explanation for biodiversity. So biodiversity is the theory of evolution. That's what the theory of evolution explains. The theory of evolution does not explain the Big Bang. It doesn't explain the origin of. That's a different theory that explains that. It doesn't explain. There's a different theory that explains the origin of chemicals. But Hovind wants to put everything that science believes in the evolution category. So he's got everything upside down and backwards, and he's absolutely clueless. But you know that he's selling to his base. He is the P.T. Barnum of religious apologists.
Oh yeah, that's a good. That's
the
good
first time
too.
I've ever heard that analogy.
Good one. Well, Aron, you said that you wanted to join us tomorrow to talk to Ole Anthony. I'm going to play a.
Yeah, I don't want to do a lot
clip.
of talking. I just want to be. Sure. I just want to be there. I want to address the person and just say thank you. Among other things, because I'll tell you this tomorrow. I mean, I'll say it again for the audience tomorrow. I mean, I'm a Dallas resident, and Bobby Tilton was a Dallas evangelist, and he was in full power when I first moved here, and boy, did I hate that asshole.
Yeah, there's this clip right here that I want to show really fast, just to as we kind of wrap up whatever we call tonight. I don't think this was even a dumpster fire. This was a this was like souping up. Go ahead, Chris.
This was a fizzle.
I was hoping so much for this to just burn up, just flames as high as mountains. Like, it was so ready for that, and then
I gave him every opportunity to like make us, like, even after he called me a punk ass bitch, like, I even still was like, okay, please continue to make your argument. Like, I was fair with he can't say that we weren't fair on that.
The reason I ceded my time to him there. The reason I ceded my time to him.
Go ahead.
I realized he couldn't make an argument.
No.
He all he could do is say, I assume this, and not in the sense that anybody that would be meaningful to anybody, but in the just general sense that nobody would even argue with. Okay, fine. Yep. So pointless.
Right. Yeah, it was, and that's not the like when we talked, he had like it was completely different. I don't know. It's like talking to two different people, but he's in the live chat now saying that we're censoring. We're a censorship channel, and it's funny. Yeah, it's funny that before we started the show, Jason King had nothing but praise for the show. Like, we are, he watches us all the time. We're great, and it's only when it goes south that now we're just this.
What was his name?
How do you censor somebody when you tell them? How do you censor somebody when you tell them you have 10 full minutes, say what you want, you just sit back, everybody's quiet? And by the way, I mean this with all sincerity. Kyle, myself, and Aron in a room where it's quiet for more than 10 seconds. Unheard of. So he had the floor.
Yeah.
Right?
The thing is, what was his name? James? Was it James?
Jason King.
Jason. Okay. So this is going online. This is off on the interwebs. So when Jason wakes up with a hangover tomorrow, he's going to look up at what he'd been building up to all week, and he's going to see what he did. And this would be maybe a clue that, I don't know, maybe you ought to cut back on the dosage or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. In that sense, I feel for him, because he's a pleasant guy. When we talked leading up to this, very pleasant. He was enjoyable to talk to, and he had really good, like, coherent. I mean, not really good arguments, but like, it made sense. It was something you could work with and have a discussion off of. And this what happened tonight is just. Yeah, let me ask you that. You said, but not really good arguments. I mean, when we're talking about creation, and I realize he wasn't talking before a God, and this question has come up with me a few times. People ask, what is the best argument for God I've ever heard? I can't say that there's a best argument, because there hasn't been a good one. I mean, just not ever. Can either of you say that you've ever heard a good argument for God? No. I would agree with you on that.
I can say there's one, but it's just because it's George Barkley.
and good is a value judgment. I usually put it this way. There's horrific arguments, and then there's arguments that I think of interest. Like, I think the argument from contingency is interesting. It doesn't get you anywhere. But there's other arguments for God that I think are just horrific. So on that scale, does that make sense? It's all relative, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I wish. And this is where I feel unprepared, because, I mean, I deal with whenever I have to deal with philosophers, when the thing is that we're working with a completely different tool set. When I'm dealing with a creation scientist, then I know exactly what kind of bogosity that we're working with there. And I don't really know when I'm arguing with a philosopher exactly what the hell is bullshit about their position. So it's like people figure that out about me pretty quick. Well, let's just jump into philosophy then. Okay, because that's just going to make my eyes roll back.
We agree there. We agree there.
Yeah.
Steve,
Chris and I, we're on the same page.
Yeah,
Chris
Steve,
and I,
that's what I'm saying. Steve and I argue about this all the time, because I think it's just a bunch of mental masturbation. Like I'm not even going to get off on a tangent. See, Steve's already triggering me now. Let me ask a question. Let me ask Aron a question. The question. Okay, the one that Steve and I have been battling each other against since day one.
Wait, we just have one? No, we got more than that.
Aron, no, we have quite a few, but this is the big one. Aron, is doubt a virtue?
Absolutely, because I mean, my definition of a fool is one who too readily accepts improbable claims from questionable sources on insufficient evidence. And you don't want to. My goal would be that I'm not going to be fooled into believing something that isn't even true. So I would rather risk not believing something is true and be skeptical about whether the thing is true